This is a dark, romantic, high fantasy novel with a central mate-bond plot. It includes mature themes, symbolic power dynamics, and fictional age gaps within a fully fictional world. While elements of darkness and tension appear, the heart of the story remains magical and romantic. The world is fully fictional. Cultural inspirations are used only for aesthetic texture and variety. Viewer discretion is advised.
Moonlake by Moonlit Narrator. Chapter 3. The Bond and the Bargain. Hannah's goal was clear. Find Elias, her father. His last known location was in the north, a land of treacherous weather, far from the warmth of the southeast. The journey would be a challenge, but she was prepared. Her mother, Arya, the music Fae, had warned her about the mate bond, how it would cloud her judgment and pull her towards someone she did not choose. And now she finally knew who he was. Viktor Morozov, the most powerful and unyielding Alpha in Volnir, feared by all. But a Febrin like her was not meant to be bound in such a way. She repeated it to herself like a mantra, though each repetition rang hollower than the last. The pain of denying him would pass. She had to believe that. She had conquered harder trials, hadn't she? Still, the pull of the bond, a force she could almost taste in the air, made her wonder if this was all just a test of will. What if it wasn't a test at all? What if he was meant to be her first love? And what if she, like the Fae, could only love once? She clenched her jaw. Focus, Hannah. She had power, but she needed a native guide to navigate the northern lands. Perhaps she wouldn't have to mobilize her 20 anima, her shadow warriors who blended in with the crowd, taking manual jobs in the Azvaran and Juanshan diasporas to sustain themselves.
Animus minions were tireless, but they still needed food and shelter. It was better to conserve their presence.
Viktor followed her through the alleyways, his presence an undeniable force. The Azvara Isles diaspora community, a patchwork of migrants from her homeland in the southeast, watched him with wary eyes, their gazes shifting between the foreign man and their Hannah. A silent question hung in the air.
Why was he following her?
But no one spoke. The wary gazes are less sharp. Viktor wasn't sure if it was the fact he was a werewolf or simply a stranger from the north, but he braced himself for any hint of dismissal. She walked into Fernando's kitchen, a small restaurant whose comforting aroma of broth and spices embraced her like home. The warm, earthy scent of garlic and ginger wafted through the air, the familiar smell bringing a tinge of nostalgia.
Uncle, I'm back.
The good-natured owner, Fernando, her father's childhood friend, barely glanced up from behind the counter.
What you requested has arrived,
he said. Then, lowering his voice, he added,
But what are you doing with those seeds in the north? They only grow in tropical lands.
Even if I don't plant them,
she said with a small smile, they'll remind me of home. The chime above the door jingled as Viktor stepped inside.
We're closed,
Fernando said gruffly.
Didn't you see the sign?
Fernando's gruffness wasn't unfamiliar. It echoed the bluntness Viktor had long learned to expect from those wary of outsiders. Still, the man's voice held no mockery or scorn, only practical caution. Viktor noted the subtle difference, unsure how much of the warmth Azvarans were said to have was true or just a distant idea from travel brochures and childhood lessons. The reality felt more complicated. Hannah leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. Don't worry, he's here for me.
He's from the north.
She smirked, her eyes flickering with a hint of mischief.
My sure way to get a visa.
Viktor heard the exchange but acted as though he hadn't.
Visa? So she's traveling to Volna, not going home to Azvara?
Hannah knew he'd heard every word. She'd intended for him to. Understanding dawned in Fernando's eyes. Without hesitation, he flipped the sign back to open.
Welcome, sir. My apologies. What can I get you?
Viktor's beta even, and his pack remained outside, sensing the tension. Viktor took the seat beside Hannah at the counter, surveying the unfamiliar surroundings. The restaurant was small, the decorations vibrant and deeply tied to the southeast. Far from anything he was accustomed to. The mingling scent of spices and simmering broth made him feel both out of place and strangely calm.
So, you found me.
Hannah's voice broke through his thoughts. She was calm, unfazed, sipping her mango juice as if this were nothing more than a casual encounter. Poking at the hard-boiled egg in her noodle soup with a fork, she waited for his reaction. She had eaten Mommy, her favorite noodle soup, earlier before stopping by the hotel concierge, and when she returned to the restaurant, she ordered the same dish again, knowing that once she traveled to unfamiliar lands, the familiar flavors of home would be far from her reach.
You knew.
Viktor said, more a statement than a question. Then to Fernando.
I'll have what she's having.
As the man went to prepare his order, Viktor turned back to Hannah. He wouldn't waste time,
Let's not waste time.
he told himself, though even he could hear the strange hesitation in his voice. This wasn't like any other mission he'd ever faced. He had never felt this way before. Viktor studied her carefully. Hannah's expression remained unchanged. Her gaze met his. Dark brown, nearly black, but revealing rich hues under the light. Calm, unwavering. She could feel it too. The intensity of the mate bond prickled her skin. Her complexion was light, almost white in the cold, reminiscent of porcelain with a subtle hint of pink, cool undertones, and a natural glow. Fairer than most Azvarans.
She must be biracial.
Viktor thought. Her hair, dark brown, nearly black, appeared warm brown under sunlight. It was long, straight cut, reaching 3 inches below the waist. Styled in a half-up braid starting at the crown and blending into loose strands, it had a naturally full and shiny appearance that seemed to pull him in even more. She wore pearl drop earrings and a golden treble clef hair clip adorned with 2 diamonds and 3 sapphires secured the middle of her braid. Everything about her drew him in. Was he addicted? Obsessed? In love? He couldn't tell. All he knew was that he had waited for a mate for a long time, waited, then gave up, and now she was here, shaking the icy world he had built around himself. She set down her spoon in the bowl of noodle soup, now nearly cold. The rich aroma of broth lingered in the air, the silence between them stretching long.
I know what you want.
Her deep brown eyes were unreadable, yet something in them made Viktor's chest tighten.
My answer is no. I won't come with you.
Silence. Viktor stiffened. He barely noticed even stepping in just in time to hear those words. A sharp, unfamiliar ache coiled around his ribs, as if his heart was snarling in protest. His mate, his only mate, and she was slipping through his fingers.
Relax.
He told himself.
That wasn't an official rejection.
His jaw clenched.
I will never back down.
He straightened, his presence expanding not with aggression, but with sheer, unyielding dominance. The air itself seemed to thicken, charged with something unspoken. Even the low hum of the restaurant dimmed as if the world itself acknowledged the shift. His voice was firm, unwavering.
Then let's make a deal.
Hannah's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. The words hung between them like a challenge, but she didn't respond immediately. There was something in his gaze, in the way he held himself, that made her wonder if this was all part of the bargain she'd been avoiding.
He'll try to force me into submission, but I won't give in.
She took a breath, her voice softer but no less determined.
A deal, huh? What kind of deal?
Viktor's eyes narrowed slightly, but his resolve remained unshaken.
A deal that ensures you don't set foot in the north without me.